Welcome to Soul Therapy. I'm Katie.
And I'm Kate, and this is a space where we take a deep breath, dive into healing, and laugh a little along the way.
Think of this as your cozy corner for exploring how to feel better, grow stronger, and live with more ease.
We'll chat about everything from practical tools to soulful insights, all designed to help you connect with yourself and navigate life's ups and downs.
We've put together this Soul Therapy session series to help you to come back into alignment.
By alignment, we mean living with expression of your true self and values, feeling centered and grounded in yourself, and with an inner peace, trusting in the flow of life and your role within it.
So listen along and join in with the exercises, and let us know how you get on. Ready?
Let's do this.
Welcome to Soul Therapy. I'm Katie.
And I'm Kate, and today we're going to talk about the relationship with strangers.
So the majority of the people in the world are just complete strangers to us, you know. We're raised in this kind of small environment. We've got our caregivers, and then gradually as we go out, we start to engage with more and more and more people, but they all start off to us as complete strangers. So how we actually interact with and approach our interactions with complete strangers actually frames how much we'll have interaction with people in our lives at all.
Right.
Because otherwise, if we're finding it difficult and struggling to connect with strangers, then they can't go beyond being strangers to becoming acquaintances, friends, family, relationships, partners, colleagues. They can't really step into those more advanced roles if we don't know how to interact with them as strangers.
Right. Yeah. And really, like, the more open we are to interacting with strangers and those people we don't know, the more we tend to build the world around us, right? And the more connected we feel to everybody as a whole.
Definitely.
Right.
Yeah, so our whole world is then formed of our interactions with this wealth of people that we have never met before.
And especially strangers from different backgrounds, right? From different cultures, from different languages. I think the more open we are to interacting with, people who are different than us, the more it opens up our world.
But of course, we start off with that innate fear, right?
Yes.
So that is perfectly understandable and perfectly natural as kind of a small defenseless child to have that fear. However, it's kind of strange to note that actually a lot of children don't innately show that fear of strangers. Instead, what they're showing is an openness to connect with the people who are coming into their world. So I think actually somewhere along the lines, while we do need to manage and mind ourselves, and we do need to learn to look after ourselves, at the same time, it would be nice to keep and hold on to that openness to meet and connect with new people.
Yeah. And it's interesting how you were saying that with, like, children, they're actually quite open. And that's until kind of they're fed some of the messages around stranger danger. Right? Like, I remember being told that as a child, almost in schools, like, not even just in my family, but in schools, they teach, like, don't talk to strangers. Like,
and percentage wise,
yeah,
you know, the higher percentage of strangers are actually nice people going about their day.
exactly.
You know? So I think what happens is maybe we drift into this kind of understanding that instead of the majority of people being good and the minority of people that maybe would cause us issue, we swap it and have it the other way around.
Right.
Where we kind of see the majority of people as having potential danger for us.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think this can very much depend on someone's upbringing too. So, like, if they were raised and their first experiences are of trauma of the people around them, of not being treated properly, of neglect, then they're, like, ingrained in their belief system is going to be that the world is a dangerous place. So imagine, an adult now going into the world who hasn't processed those experiences, who hasn't healed from those experiences, and they now have these views as an adult that the world is a dangerous place because to them it was as a child, right? But then imagine those belief systems getting passed on from
Yeah.
generation to generation. And
Yeah.
imagine the disconnection that that can cause to the world around us.
Exactly, and that disconnection, that kind of
Mhm.
perpetual loneliness that can
Mhm.
develop, that
Mhm.
has a terribly negative effect on our mental health as individuals, of course, but it
Yeah.
also has a pretty negative effect on society, because
Yeah.
that's really what fosters this separateness, this
Mhm.
disconnection, dissociation.
Mhm.
Um, yeah,
This
this
otherness, this
and
otherness. They're
othering.
not like us, right?
Yeah, and that
Um,
perpetuates the fear.
exactly. Yeah. And until we
Mm.
challenge those belief systems that, the world is a dangerous place, that we shouldn't talk to strangers, no one can be trusted. Like these
Mm.
are all belief systems that a lot of people inherit because there's a lot of trauma that runs
Mm.
through families,
Mm.
right? So until we can challenge those and say, you know what, I'm going to start talking to strangers anyways, I'm going to reframe the narrative, or I'm going to challenge this narrative and see actually if it's even true, the more we can learn that, okay, actually, most people are good. Like
Mhm.
99% of people are good and 1% are bad. But there's some
Mm.
people in this world who go around and think that 99% of people are bad and only 1% of people are good.
Yeah,
And
and
that
that's
literally frames how we view the world.
exactly, and that's a very sad and kind of lonely way to
Mhm.
live, really.
Mhm.
No, I think it's really, really important to kind of be able to interact with and open ourselves
Mhm.
up to connections with other people. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be huge, intense connections.
Mhm.
It can be just small kind of conversations,
Mhm.
while waiting for a bus or a train, or
Mhm.
while standing in a queue.
Mhm.
It's that recognition of the person who is a separate person to you,
Mhm.
as not other in a bad way.
Right.
It's that person, it's having an interest
Mhm.
in who is that person.
Mhm.
And actually, by doing that, we can feel a real sense of connection and growth through our lives.
Mhm.
And we don't really know the impacts that we can have with these small interactions.
Mhm.
There's that theory of the butterfly effect. So, like,
Mm.
the idea that a butterfly beats its wings far across the world, and
Right.
it causes a great kind of wind and a presence to happen in another
Yeah.
place. So
Yeah.
it's that idea that actually these small changes and small
Yeah.
interactions can actually amplify. And we can easily
Mm.
think up ideas where that could be the case. If someone's
Mhm.
having a very bad day and they've been very
Mhm.
alone,
Mhm.
and then they have a little small interaction in the queue for the ATM or the queue for the
Mhm.
supermarket,
Yeah.
that could actually be their only interaction in a day with
Right.
somebody.
Yeah.
So that could actually mean quite a lot to them. So I think
Yes.
it's really about opening up to the people around you
Yeah.
being interesting and potentially good, rather than
Mhm.
interactions with them being negative, rather than looking down at your phone all the time.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people now, you kind of see they're stepping out of the world and
Mhm.
into the tech that they're
Mhm.
carrying with them.
Mhm. Mhm.
But actually, are they connecting via that tech, or are they disconnecting from where they
Right.
actually are?
Yeah. Mhm.
And so I think it's really important to get to the point where we can recognize that the tech is a tool for us.
Yes.
We are not being used by the tech,
Mhm.
and by the
Mm.
platforms.
Mhm.
And there's that classic kind of statement as well.
Yeah.
If you're using a platform and you can't
Mhm.
see where the money is coming from, you're not paying
Mhm.
for it, or you
Right.
can't see where they're getting the money from,
Yeah.
then you're probably the product that they're
Right.
selling.
Exactly.
So it might be
Yeah.
your attention, your time, that they're
Mhm.
valuing. So drawing you into there and
Right.
away from the world around you,
Yeah.
away from connections that are organic with the people
Right.
around you,
Yes.
that can be a really big thing.
It is. It's leading, this world now of technology. It's like, of course, it has its benefits because people are finding community online. But then it's the other side of that, of like that disconnection of, yeah, the world around us. Like when we're out shopping
Mm.
and instead of, looking at strangers, engaging with strangers, we're kind of looking at our phone and we're not really present in our
Mm.
environment, right? It's literally kind of like we're going between two worlds. It's
Mm.
like the world around us that we see, and then it's the world that's in our phone.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. And I think it's also this understanding that, when you connect outwards and you start to interact with other people, this is kind of a win-win in a way, because you are helping others because you're connecting with them, but you're helping yourself as well. So this kind of connection outwards, it amplifies and it spreads, and it's kind of the joy and the interactions from small connections can really make a big difference in life. And you never really know where they're going to lead.
Right.
Thinking back to some of the biggest connections in my life, they came from some of the smallest initial start points.
But look at how we met.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we never, like, when we met in Bali at this tea ceremony, I never would have thought, like, down the road, over a year later, we're going to be sitting in a different country, on a different continent, doing something like this, right? Like,
yeah, that's definitely really true. And I mean, I have a friend I've known since I was 5, and we stumbled through the door at the same time on our first day at school. We weren't even 5 yet.
Yeah.
So those things, and I've ended up in relationships for years with people that I asked for directions,
right?
Or bought a coffee from. It's really, you just don't know where those small interactions are going to take you.
Yeah, and especially as travelers, and as more and more people get out and start traveling and exploring with remote work. I mean, some of the best connections have been while traveling, sitting at a cafe, and you start talking to someone else who's like staying at the same hotel or the same hostel, and like you never know where those connections are going to lead. You never know who that person knows. You never know what role they're going to play, even if it's not significant now. Yeah. Maybe a year down the road you run into them again.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And then it's like,
or maybe they introduce you to somebody. Yeah. Maybe it's not about that particular person.
Yeah.
Maybe it's about the person that you meet through them. Yeah, you just don't really know. And it's being open to all the possibilities that kind of actually opens so many doors in our lives, and then on a knock-on effect in other people's lives, and on and on and on. Yeah. Every child that exists and has ever existed has been from the connection of two people who met.
Exactly.
So it's the perpetuation of life. It's the perpetuation of the energy of that interaction that we find.
Yeah, and I think as we're younger, we're almost more open to these kinds of connections and building these connections. And it's like, the more we age and kind of like have family and like potentially get set in our ways, it's like we're less open to engaging with the world around us, and it can almost lead to isolation without us even realizing
it.
I
think that's definitely true. I definitely think that particularly like connecting, making new friends can be a much more difficult thing as people get older. Yeah, and I think, but it doesn't need to be.
That's the thing. I almost question that. It's like, I get it, it is more difficult, but like, are we making it more difficult on ourselves? Like, when you go out to the grocery store as someone who's older, are you just less likely to engage with the people in the grocery store? When you're walking down the street, are you just less likely to engage? And are we almost making it more difficult for ourselves? Because it's not like we're in a new world. Like, we're still in the same world. Still, there's everybody around us. Or are we just more closed off to making those connections?
I think it's about kind of resurrecting that playfulness as well. It's about resurrecting that kind of enjoyment of just spending time with other people. And maybe that comes from spending our lives being told that we need to have a point to doing all the different things we're doing. We need to be getting somewhere, going somewhere, accruing something. There needs to be a point to it, when actually, joy and for the interest of actually chatting with somebody is actually potentially enough of a point. You've got no idea what's going to come out of things. And sometimes the unexpected can be so much more interesting, enjoyable, and important than that which you could have predicted and expected.
Exactly. And I think it's like, the older we get too, maybe we're more kind of like set in our ways of like, we always have something else to do. We feel too busy.
Yeah.
And this ties back to what we spoke about in previous sessions as well, is like taking that time to just be present. Like when you're in the grocery store, in a place where you could potentially meet so many people, are you even present? Or are you like, you thinking about what you're going to cook for dinner that night? Are you thinking about, you know, everything that's on your list of what you need to do after you leave the grocery store, right? So I think like that stress kind of becomes compounded maybe the older we get, and it could be because we generally have more responsibilities, especially people who have families and get married and have mortgages. So it's like they're constantly just in this rushing mode, and they're potentially not present to actually making those new connections.
I think it's interesting also because we talk about how we spend time. So we talk about spending time like we talk about spending money. Like it's a finite resource and we have to choose how we interact with it. But I think that is true. And I think that's also what kind of leads to this perhaps limiting of interactions with people, is because you only have so much time in a day, and how are you going to spend it?
Yeah.
But really, I think it's about recognizing the value in each other. And it doesn't have to be a huge interaction to recognize the value. And actually, when you recognize the value in others, that starts the ball rolling for others to recognize the value in you. And actually, there is just innate value in connecting with and recognizing how we are both similar and different to others. Even as stupid things, even ridiculous things, you know. I mean, there's the topic of kind of ridiculous topic, but what would you do in a zombie apocalypse? Right? What would you do in a zombie apocalypse? Everybody's got an answer to this usually. Everybody's thought of this. Like it's kind of one of those cliche conversations that everyone's either had with somebody, or they've watched a movie and at some point they've kind of thought to themselves, I wouldn't do that. I would do this, right? So everybody's got a different answer usually as to what they would do in it, because we're all individuals, we're all unique, we're all important. And so, you know, my zombie apocalypse plan might not be your zombie apocalypse plan, might not be everyone else's. And so, but it's kind of interesting to notice that we're all different and that we've all got our own impression. My zombie apocalypse plan is to get to an island and to, you know, restart my life there on an island where I can, like, you know, defend my boundaries if I want, and like I can, you know, allow people in who are not yet become zombies, and I can actually manage that situation and forge a new life there.
And mine is just to sacrifice myself, because like I don't want to sacrifice myself as soon as possible, because the thought of a life running away and always being in hiding sounds so stressful to me. It's like I don't have the energy for that.
So you're gonna kind of zombies take me out.
Yes, I'll be the first one. I'll take one for the team. And just like I can't run. I don't have the energy for that.
Well, I'm busy escaping and setting up a new colony on an island.
And I'll find you.
You're gonna turn into a zombie hunting me down. But see, it's kind of interesting to see how we're different and how we're similar and how we're connected and how we're diverging. And all of that has value. You know? Just interacting and just thinking about those things have value. And it doesn't have to be a serious thing.
That's the thing. It's just like respecting the differences, right? Like we're not judging each other because like we have a different plan, or we're not like
allow it.
And we're not trying to like even say like convince the other that they should go our way.
You can sacrifice yourself if you want. At least now I know if I see Kate coming, I'm gonna know she's already a zombie, so that's it. Like let go.
Exactly, right? So it's just like that acceptance of like everybody has a different plan, and like if they're not hurting other people, it's like it's such a waste of energy to judge, and it's such a waste of energy to try to convince someone to see your side, right?
The same way. They don't have to. I mean, like sometimes we want to be seen for who we are and how we think. And there's that's valuable, and it feels valuable to actually be truly seen by others. Helps us to truly see ourselves. It's actually a really important part of being a child, is to be truly seen by your caregivers and the other people in your life. And so it's fine to be truly seen, but they don't have to agree with you.
Exactly. Validation.
I don't have to agree that it's the best way forward to
exactly.
You don't have to change my mind.
Exactly.
And I don't have to change yours.
Exactly.
You just let it be.
Exactly. Right. And it's that difference between validation and agreeing, right? Like, everybody does like to be heard, and you can totally validate someone's experience without agreeing with it, right? And I think that's important too, because that's a big factor in building connection with others. It's like, I hear what you're saying, But I don't agree, and that's okay.
Yeah, but see, that's the
Right?
trick, isn't it, really? The
Mm-hmm.
trick is to see others as other than ourselves
Yes.
without seeing them fully as other than ourselves. So
Mm-hmm.
you see them as the unique, beautiful, different individual they are,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but you don't see them as this fearful foreign entity that you
Right.
don't know how to interact with, and you're worried
Mm-hmm.
about how they're going to react.
Yes.
And I think, I think people can start small if they're
Yes.
doing this. I think
Yeah.
maybe it's a case of if people are feeling fearful of interacting with others, I think there's a way in which it's possible to start small instead of just rushing in and trying to
Mm.
welcome everybody into your life all at once.
Yeah.
It's perfectly possible to just jump into it, but if you're not feeling that, then
Yeah.
it's also perfectly possible to kind of take it slow.
Mm-hmm. Right. And
Mm.
it's thinking how, like, I mean, a lot of the time we already do accept others, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like we accept that, like, when we're in the line at a cafe, you accept that the person in front of you maybe doesn't like the same drink you do, right? So,
Yeah,
like, you realize, like, we
exactly.
actually do that quite
Yeah,
a bit already. And
yeah.
it's like, I think it becomes more of a challenge when it's conflicts with values,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's like, I think the more, stronger someone gets in their position is because, well, that's a way to tell you that it's probably related to a value.
Mm.
And sometimes it's that self-awareness of, okay, so I'm so headstrong with this because it's related to my values,
Mm.
and this person simply has different values than I do, and that's
Mm.
okay.
Yeah,
Right?
it really is okay. So, I mean, I think one of the ways people can start, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the ways I try to practice every day, is
Mm-hmm.
just basically smiling at a stranger, just in a nice
Mm.
way, not a creepy way. Um, but just gently kind of going about your life in a
Yes.
gentle way. Maybe try and have a couple of words with somebody who
Mm-hmm.
is, your server in a cafe or a restaurant, or
Mm.
who is on the till in a food
Mm-hmm.
market or something like that. Just
Yeah.
try to have a couple of words with somebody
Mm-hmm.
as you're walking the dog, as you're passing in the street, as you're waiting for the
Mm-hmm.
bus. It just kind of brings that effort into life.
That connection.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
now, not obviously not every time, because other people will struggle with this interaction with strangers
Mm-hmm.
too sometimes. But usually, what will happen is, out of the several attempts that you
Mm-hmm.
make in a day,
Mm-hmm.
you get the majority. You get really great feedback from. You
Yes.
get
Yeah.
really great
Yeah.
interaction from, and it might be minimal, or it might be, they might start a whole conversation. But it's just a beautiful thing, and it
Mm-hmm.
reinforces it. So you
Yeah.
find that when you jump into starting this one day, you find that it easily becomes something I do every day now.
Yes. Yeah. And it makes life more enjoyable,
Yeah,
right? And like
definitely.
it really can make a difference. Like even like I might be having a bad day and like I remember one time I was like in such a mood and then I'm in Starbucks and I go up to the line and to order coffee and they're like,
Mm.
"Oh, the person in front of you already paid for your coffee."
Oh,
And
that's
like that's
cute.
all it was to like turn my day
Mm.
around. I'm like, "Oh, that's so nice.
Mm.
That's so sweet." Right? So sometimes it's
Mm.
like that idea of like literally they say like spreading kindness, like it can
Yeah.
literally change the world and it can because that changed my mood. That's all it took was like someone buying me a coffee and like my
Yeah.
mood completely changed. And then I'm like, oh, maybe I should do that for the person behind me because maybe they're having a bad day too. And
Mm.
maybe just me simply paying for the coffee I was going to pay for anyway might, turn that other person's day around.
That's
Right. And like,
beautiful.
it makes such a big difference and you can see it like in strangers faces like how happy they get with those like small things and then you have the person on the till who gets to see all these smiling faces, so then they're engaging better with their colleagues and
Mm-hmm.
then with their friends, right? And you can see how those little things can just like spread like so much
And that's the thing.
kindness,
That's
right?
kind of where, by helping others, you're innately helping
You're helping
yourself.
yourself. You are.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so we've now gone around like the idea that by helping yourself
Mm-hmm.
and focusing more on, being happier within yourself, you're
Yeah.
helping others and all the people you interact
Yeah.
with. And now by helping the others,
Mm-hmm.
you're also helping yourself. So this is
Yeah.
this self-perpetuating upward spiral that we're kind
Exactly.
of looking for. This is this
Yeah.
amplification of joy, and
Mm-hmm.
the energy flow becomes in the direction where we're all just feeling happier and
Mm-hmm.
brighter and more lifted,
Yes.
rather than this descending energy
Yes.
flow where we're all becoming more fearful,
Mm-hmm.
and shut off.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very true. Like when I remember when I was going through a really tough time, I went and I did humanitarian work.
Mm.
And literally, it's like when you feel helpless, help others because it literally shifts your energy.
Mm.
it really shifts your energy when you feel like you're helping someone
Yeah,
else,
yeah.
right?
It's amazing, like that kind of interaction that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think then you also come to the kind of point where we can also see parts of ourselves in the world around us.
Mm.
And so there's that concept of the world kind of being a mirror for you. And I guess
Mm.
that we can we can see that mostly if we look
Mm-hmm.
at dream analysis. Because
Yeah.
in dream
Mm-hmm.
analysis, we often approach a dream by thinking, well, what if everybody in that dream is just a part of the dreamer? So
Yes.
they just are the dreamer in different forms.
Mm-hmm.
And so that dream then is trying to convey to you in the
Yes.
language of symbols and the language of the dream,
Yeah.
there's something you're processing, something you're working through,
Mm-hmm.
and it's doing it using a cast of characters, all
Yeah.
of which are actually the dreamer
Just
themselves.
reflections of
Yeah.
us. Just
So
all the different
yeah.
parts of us.
So it's kind of this beautiful way of kind of recognizing what's happening and what's being
Mm-hmm.
processed within the dreamer by recognizing themselves in the cast of
Right.
characters of their dream.
Yeah.
And so similarly, going out into the world, we
Mm-hmm.
can actually recognize things that we are leaning towards or pulling away from, or things we want in our lives, things we
Mm-hmm.
don't want in our lives,
Yeah.
by what other people are bringing into our lives. So
Mm-hmm.
actually, I usually I this really solved my problem of interacting with people
Mm-hmm.
who were, I found, really negative,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes you can't get out of those situations immediately. You have to
Mm-hmm.
deal with them and move away from them. But one of the things I started to recognize was, I don't want to be like this person.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody was interacting with me and I was finding it negative, rather than getting cross, I would just start to remind myself how this person was bringing up for me
Mm-hmm.
a great display of things that I didn't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that they displayed that, the more I could recognize what I didn't want to be,
Yeah.
the sadder it could feel, really, to notice
Mm-hmm.
that that's what they're being. They're being something I don't want to be.
Yes. Yeah.
And the more I could just let them go
Mm-hmm.
with grace into their
Mm-hmm.
own life,
Yeah.
rather than feeling any kind of sense of ongoing negativity that
Mm-hmm.
they had brought into my life.
Yeah.
Just let it go, more
Yeah.
so, because that's not what I want to be. But
Mm-hmm.
that's because I had then applied that as a lesson to myself.
Mm.
That negativity they brought, I applied
Yeah.
it as a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be like that.
Right. Yeah, and the less energy I think that we can give to those situations, the better. And I think it's kind of like that picking and choosing, like especially in relationships, is like, is this something that relates to my values? Is this something that I truly can let go, or is this gonna fester? And if I bring it up, then I'll be able to move on. But majority of the time, especially in like our interactions with strangers, because they don't really play a key role in our life, sometimes it is just easier to let it go because you'll probably never see them again anyway. So why give it the energy? Kind of
Exactly. And
thing,
so,
right?
somebody cuts in the queue in front of you or something
Exactly.
like this.
Yeah.
The reality is that this is not who I want to be,
Mm-hmm.
who's disregarding all the people behind them.
Mm-hmm.
But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, I don't need to necessarily aggressively confront that, because the
Mm-hmm.
thing is that perhaps they are having an issue in their day about which I know not.
Yes.
And so at that point, I can just
Mm-hmm.
recognize that I don't want to be like this and move on
Yeah.
with my life in a different way.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of the time, strangers are great gauges to how we're actually
Mm.
feeling. And
Mm.
like, I know for me too, like, I realize it has nothing to do with anyone else but myself.
Mm.
Like, if I'm already having a bad day and then someone cuts in the queue, I'm so much more likely to say something to them
Mm.
than if I were in a good mood, I wouldn't care.
That's
So
right,
it
exactly.
totally just shows you, like, if something happens and like you want to tell off a stranger, you want to curse them out, you want to honk your horn, that's a good indicator that you're in a really bad internal state
Mm.
and like you need to do something to calm yourself, whether that's meditation, whether that's self-care, because it's like that recognition of, like, think about when you were in a really good mood, would you have
Mm.
reacted differently?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So the very fact that you're so kind of so raw that day,
Mm-hmm.
when if they're abrasive and they
Mm-hmm.
rub up against you, but
Mm-hmm.
the reason you're so raw is because things aren't going well for you that
Exactly.
day.
In your life.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just recognizing that you deal with situations differently in different days, and maybe giving yourself some grace for that, and giving each other some grace for that, because they probably deal with situations differently in different days as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
And in that, if we all give each other grace, we all benefit.
Exactly.
And this is the kind of foundation of not othering the people, is you're not belittling them, you're not putting them below you, you're not making them dangerous, and you're not making them less than you. You're also not making them more than you. They're not more important in life than you are as well. Everyone deserves to take up the space that they do, but we recognize that people have these kind of peaks and troughs to their life. They are on this kind of natural roller coaster, if you like, going on. And I mean, some people have so more than others. It really depends how they've managed to stabilize within themselves as to how they interact with those ups and downs.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like speaking like of how we other people and constructs, like the other kind of is just a construct. Like there is no other, right? Like they could be a reflection of us. I mean, it's like, has there not been one time in your life where maybe you cut someone off on the road? I know I have. I know I've been in a rush going to work and I had like a really bad morning and I'm like getting annoyed because the driver like won't let me over and I go anyways and I cut them off. And like if I was always judged for that, right? It's like, when was I that person? Because a lot of the time, if we're honest with ourselves, we're like, when was I that person who was maybe yelling at the cashier? Maybe it happened 10 years ago, but I'm sure at one point or another when I was even a teenager, I probably, because I didn't have regulation skills, I probably did yell at the cashier and I probably looked like an a-hole for doing it, right? So it's like a lot of the time we can see that in us too, and we probably did it at one point or another. Right?
I mean, I think it's like, and through that then we can see the universality of everyone's experience.
Yeah.
So we are all having different experiences of the same kind of space.
Exactly.
But we have a cohesiveness in that. We are universally different to each other.
Yeah.
And in that we're the same.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're all experiencing difference.
Exactly.
And so that really then we can kind of maybe find that unitedness, find that connection, and find that grace and that peace for the people around us, as not really so much as apart from us, but as kind of this part of the world in which we are existing and part of the energy in which we're flowing.
Right. Yeah. Then like, what if there is no other, right? What if they're just all reflections of us? Because speaking about the relationship house, like we did in the first session, it's like, you know, in the house that we live in, when we look out the window, it really much is just a reflection of our internal world. So if we're observing all of these different things, it's because they exist within us too.
Absolutely, right? And like everything, as we progress through life, in everything we do, we are either getting the outcome we desire, or we're getting a lesson on the way to achieving the outcome we desire.
Yeah.
And so either of those things are good. So it's not good or bad, it's how you see it. So actually you could see them as both good, because the lesson is bringing you closer to what you desire.
Exactly.
So it's a step along the way, if it's not the entire way.
Exactly.
And part of the lesson could be to find out what you truly desire rather than what you thought you desired. So it's really all actually a very good thing. And if we can see it as that, we can relax into it rather than defending it and fighting against it and trying to control it.
For sure. Yeah. And like, what if there is no good or bad either? What if it's just all is? Like, that good or bad is just, you know, it's a judgment that is very much kind of like a human thing, an ego thing. Like, what if it just is no right or wrong? It just is. Right.
Exactly. And that's the technique as well, of course. The technique of what if, you know?
Yeah.
What if it just is?
Yeah.
So what if everything comes up and instead of seeing it one way, what if you reverse it? What if you take it on a 90-degree tangent and go off that way? What if you come up with 4 other answers and see how you would feel about those? And you know, what if it's not causally related? What if it's not correlated? What if it's completely separate from? What if it's not true? What if it is?
Yeah.
Just dealing with and perusing these ideas in our heads
Mm-hmm.
without attachment to them.
Yeah.
So in a way that we don't need them to be a certain way in order for it to be okay.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's really finding that safety and security in being with what is.
And with making peace with what is, of like the world around us and the strangers around us too. And like approaching people of like, what if that person is my future best friend?
Right, exactly.
Right?
You know,
Like,
or you know, what if that person jumping ahead of me in the queue actually set me back a couple of seconds, and so then when I go on to buy my lottery ticket later on a lucky dip, it'll be the couple of seconds later and the lucky dip will be different and I'll win the lottery.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
What if these things are not working against me? What if they're working for me?
Right.
And so in that, the kind of what if becomes this uniting with everybody else, with the universe, with the wholeness of everything.
Yeah.
We become one unified field
Yeah.
rather than separate others that fight against each other.
Yeah. Or like, what if like they're an angel and they're protecting me from leaving the store too soon because there's going to be an accident, right? Like imagine if everyone who we came into interaction with was like a teacher or an angel that was sent to actually teach us something.
Yeah, it's a beautiful idea. The idea that, you know, everyone you meet has something you can learn from them. That's what led me to the concept of actually recognizing in somebody I could either recognize what I wanted to be or what I didn't want to be.
Right. Yeah.
So that's where that concept came from.
Yes.
It's from the idea that everyone has something to teach me.
Yes.
And what was it?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a beautiful one. Even if it's how you don't want to be, it's still incredibly valuable.
Exactly.
Really, really valuable to work out what you don't want, or what you don't want to be.
The person I don't want to be, right? Yeah. And those people teach us just as much as the people who we do want to be, right? They both teach us.
Definitely, yeah. It's a crazy world actually when we separate ourselves off from strangers, but actually when we open ourselves up and we connect, it just all becomes brighter and more beautiful. We're inviting the whole world in, and the beauty and the joy and the color of life floods in when we invite it in. Yeah,
and being open to it, right? And I think that's one thing I always loved is like someone who traveled a lot is like that community of travelers generally are so open, right? So it's like you meet a stranger and then you feel like you're best friends in a few weeks.
True. And actually doing that though, so whether it's traveling or whether it's joining a group, a dance class or something like that, actually going to take part in something where there is connectivity with strangers can then just really reinforce with such a great feeling that can help to start people opening up to other strangers in their life, whether it's a person they're standing next to on the bus or the train, or you know, whether it's the person who's waiting beside them in the vets that day. And it's surprising just what amazing interactions you can have with people that way. Or maybe it's not surprising at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that's the thing about it.
Exactly.
Actually, we find it surprising because we've closed ourselves off to it.
Yeah.
But actually, it's all out there for us. It's all possible.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us for this session of Soul Therapy.
And we'll see you in the next session.
Thanks for joining us. We'd love to connect with you live in our group sessions.
Join our online membership to spend weekly group sessions with us, where we will be talking about topics such as depression, anxiety, burnout, relationships, family problems, and addictions, as we work with you to develop your health and well-being.
In addition, this includes access to a private Telegram group, weekly actionable exercises with guaranteed general feedback from us. The 12-week membership comes with an exclusive offer of reduced price one-to-one sessions with us for the duration of the 12-week membership.
A lot can change in 12 weeks. Come and join us and jump into the life you choose.
Remember that to get the most out of these soul therapy sessions, whether the free podcast series or the membership, we advise full participation in all the suggested exercises.
Throw yourself into this fully and become the you that you have always dreamed of being. We have linked 2 meditations for you to enjoy as you wish. One is a sleep meditation, which you can put on playing at low level as you get into bed and will continue for 8 hours as you sleep deeply. The second is an ancient connecting meditation dating from around 1000 AD that cultivates a better world for ourselves and for all by reaching out and supporting others, and in doing so, recognizing our own power to contribute to making chosen change on whatever scale we want. You can perform this meditation in any pose you choose or that feels right for you, including laying down.